Today, I want to teach you that when literary essayists are analyzing a text, they pay careful attention to not just the details of the plot, but to the details of the author's craft as well. There is a connection between the author's message and his or her craft. Literary essayists can use this craft analysis to inform their thinking about the text. So, writers, we spoke previously about how, when preparing to write a literary essay that explores a theme in a text, essayists look for critical scenes that advance their ideas about the text, rereading those scenes closely. But another thing that essayists should examine is the crafting decisions that the author has made. Were there specific literary devices the author used to advance his or her message? Let's work on this idea I had about jealousy making people selfish and blind to others. Again, I'm going to look for a critical scene. I think the scene when the children lock Margot in the closet is crucial. So let's go back there, and this time, as we reread, let's take a close look at the author's craft. We have our idea that jealousy makes people selfish and blind to others, and our critical scene, the one where the children lock Margot in the closet. Now let's look for any literary devices or craft moves that Bradbury uses that might help us see more about our idea. You know some literary devices, I'm sure, but I am jotting down a quick list of some common ones to remind you. So I jotted down comparisons, metaphors, and similes, alliteration, repetition, descriptive words or sentences, personification, and then sentence variety, so short and long sentences. So writers, now let's listen to the passage, and this time be on the lookout for the literary devices that Bradbury uses. "Oh, but," Margot whispered, her eyes helpless, "but this is the day the scientists predict. They say they know the sun." "All a joke," said the boy, and seized her roughly. "Hey, everyone, let's put her in the closet before the teacher comes." "No," said Margot, falling back. They surged about her, caught her up, and bore her, protesting and then pleading, and then crying, back into a tunnel, a room, a closet where they slammed and locked the door. They stood looking at the door and saw it tremble from her beating and throwing herself against it. They heard her muffled cries. Then, smiling, they turned and went back out, back down the tunnel, just as the teacher arrived. Writers, we're going to pause for a second and take some notes in your writing notebook. Tell about one craft move that you noticed, and refer to the literary devices using the academic names for them. Go ahead and pause the video and write down what you're thinking. Let me point out some examples. There was a lot of descriptive language used here. Margot's helpless eyes, or the way she was seized roughly, and the way the students surged about her. You may have also noticed that there was some long sentences with a lot of commas. And this passage, when the students are shoving her down the hallways and into the closet, Margot is protesting and then pleading and then crying. So you might have noticed some of those moves. What do they show us about our idea that jealousy can make people selfish and blind to others? Think about that for a moment. I'll start and show you a bit of what I was thinking and see how that matches to your idea. Like you, I also noticed the descriptive language that Bradbury was using. He really wants us to feel how helpless Margot is, so he shows her whispering. He really wants us to feel how swept up the children get that they surge around her. I even think that long sentences is there to kind of show how swept up the children are, like they are a wave almost, not even thinking about what they are doing. But wait, this is good work. but it doesn't really connect to my idea that jealousy can make you selfish or bind to others. So let me think about that more. I can tell from some of the craft moves that the author used that the jealousy is making you selfish, but it's also hurting people, and there's consequences. So it's making me think that the craft moves the author's using is really highlighting the theme of the text. Sometimes there's even points where maybe they are adding to the thinking of the theme. It's extending our thoughts. So before you go off to write today, I just want to show you an entry I wrote last night that does this work. Can you look at it and listen for a few things that I do to be sure I both focus on the craft of the text and connect that craft to the theme? In this scene, Bradbury uses descriptive language to show how vulnerable Margot is, and he uses long sentences to show how the children have gotten swept up in their jealousy. This connects to the idea that jealousy makes you blind to others because the children cannot see how much they are hurting Margot. The long sentence, "They surged about her, caught her up and bore her, protesting and then pleading, and then crying back into the tunnel, a room, a closet where they slammed and locked the door," shows them almost not knowing what they were doing. They are caught up in their own jealousy. This makes me realize that this story shows us that when you get caught up in your own pain, you can hurt other people. Bradbury uses descriptive language and long sentences to illustrate how out of control the children have become because of their jealousy. Writers, you may have noticed that I used thought prompts like "this connects to the idea" and "this makes me realize." That helped me to remember that I was using this entry to think more deeply about my universal theme. Writers, this was a big lesson. We did some powerful work today. You may even want to watch parts of the video again as you're trying to figure out how to do this within your own book. Go back to the lesson platform for the next activity.